Hello and welcome to the bottom of it with your host Joshua Moriarty.
Hello, welcome to episode 68 of The Bottom of It. It's been a few months since my last podcast. Had to get through Christmas and New Year, all of that. Been playing a bunch of telenova shows and also had a bit of holiday downtime, I think. Got COVID, but the cricket was on. Didn't really care. Had the sniffles for 2 days and that was it. What's all the fuss about? Don't even know. Don't really care. Fucking sick of it. Hey, alright, so today's episode is a special one for me. I've been a fan of Trail of Dead for a long time and I'd always wanted to speak to Conrad, so this was a real privilege to get to have this conversation. Conrad was super lovely. I was expecting some of the seething anger his voice and lyrics of the portrayal would suggest, but it was nothing of the sort. He's very, very kind and gracious, and we had an awesome chat. I first heard Trail of Dead, or And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead, as the full name is, back in 2005 when they released Worlds Apart. Some of my rock pig mates who were hip to all the new shit that was coming out at the time, all the cool music, they had a leaked copy and we uploaded it onto my Xbox. My Xbox had some amazing music on it back in the days when you would have to sort of burn the CD into the hard drive, and we only had like maybe 40 CDs on there, 40 albums. It was a special time until I threw it off the balcony to prove a point one night, drunk. It was very silly. Anyway, Worlds Apart got a thrashing. We played it so much in that flat when it was sort of all the guys in my first band who lived there. We listened to that record so many times. Will You Smile Again, for me, the first track off that record. I mean, it's basically the first track. Trail of Dead always have a 1 minute kind of intro song, which I love. They do it kind of on every record to set things up. Yes, the first that song, Will You Smile Again for me, grabbed my attention immediately and encapsulated everything I was into at the time, back when guitar rock was still so fresh and invigorating. It was amazing. And the title track, Worlds Apart, has some of the most badass lyrics I've ever heard. Completely fearless in its social commentary. It still all rings very, very true today. So yeah, Worlds Apart was an excellent record, so I went back and listened to Source Tags and Codes, which had come out 3 years before. That's sort of commonly regarded as their finest piece of work, receiving a 10 out of 10 on Pitchfork at the time. We actually talk about that, Conrad. Why do I keep saying Conrad, excuse me. We talk about this in the interview, the sort of burden and blessing that comes from something like that, sort of having a piece of work that gets noted as your legacy piece and then everything after sort of compared to it. Anyway, I'm just kind of rambling now, but I bloody love this band. Conrad has been a big inspiration for me over the years. So let's get into it. I'll let the interview do the rest of the gushing from me. It's episode 68 with Conrad Keely from And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead. Enjoy.
All right.
Who sings Monsoon?
Neil Bush.
That's Neil.
Yeah,
And he sings Baudelaire as well.
that's correct. Yeah.
And then he left the band?
Yes, after Worlds Apart.
Before Worlds Apart, or you recorded it with them and then
During
he was
Worlds
gone?
Apart. I mean, he was on it, but yeah, he left the band. But he's around. He was.
I saw there was some record that he'd made, but I didn't get a chance to listen to it because I had to catch up on all 10 Trail of Dead albums and then your solo record.
We had an interviewer last week that was interviewing us for an upcoming article in the Austin Chronicle about the 20th anniversary of Source Tags, and the reporter got a hold of everyone. So he talked to Neil, he talked to Kevin, he talked to the producer Mike McCarthy, and got a lot of stories. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out.
So you don't know what they had to say about you?
No, but I don't think they're asking. He wasn't asking about me per se.
Anything mean?
He was asking about the experience of recording that album.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny because he was telling me that it's like his favorite record, but he's 23 years old, so it came out when he was 3 years old.
Whoa.
But hey, my favorite record came out when I was what? Maybe a year before I was born? I don't know.
What's your favorite record?
Well, like if I was to pick like a Pink, like Dark Side of the Moon or something like that. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. So
I'm trying to think what my favorite records are from before I was born. There's got to be heaps. Maybe like Thriller or something like that, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Maybe some Prince record.
Yeah, I guess I was 1 year old when Dark Side came out, but I remember Prince coming. I remember Purple Rain coming out really well.
Because I was born in '83, so I saw him in the '90s, and he was real weird in the '90s. Like, I mean, he was always weird, but he was extra like because he turned into the symbol. He looked pretty freaky.
Yeah.
And
well,
then,
there was like a logic behind the whole symbol thing. I know that seemed like such an eccentric thing, but
it was to get out of his deal, right?
Right. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of clever.
Yeah, I think that is really clever. I don't think a lot of people did know that that's what it's about. They just thought he was a massive, pretentious arsehole, which I think he kind of was a little bit, but he was also a very intelligent guy getting out of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it kind of reminds me of like, when Caligula, made his horse a senator and Sigtarda. And, people just thought, wow, that this emperor was so crazy. But there was actually even a political motivation to that, too. I don't know the full story, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to make my horse a senator. He was making a point about the Senate at the time.
Okay. I do not know that story at all.
So anyway, yeah. So like, there's some things that people do that seem eccentric or weird, but if you find out the real story, there's sometimes a reason behind it.
Well, it's the same with the 1,000 Brown M&Ms, right?
What is that story?
The story of the 1,000 Brown M&Ms, when all of the like 80s hair metal guys were requesting it on their rider, was because if they got to the festival or the gig or whatever and the 1,000 Brown M&Ms were there, it meant that they'd read the technical rider, because at the time the promoters were just like skimping on structural things and PAs and stuff like that.
Yeah, just to make sure you're paying attention.
Yeah, that was how it started. And then I don't know, where does it end? What's the most ridiculous thing you've got on the rider? What do you guys have on your request?
We're pretty, I don't think we have anything weird. Back in the day, just for a joke, I used to like when we used to have the external storage, and there was like that one disc that held a lot for a disc back then. I think it was called like, I can't remember what it was called, zip disk. And for whatever reason, I thought it'd be funny to have a zip disk on the rider, so we could have an extra zip disk. But that'd be like asking for an external hard drive on the rider now.
I actually might start doing that.
It's not a bad idea, right? It's practical.
I never have enough. I'm always scared that all my Ableton sessions are going to vanish, and then I need to back everything up more. This is a good idea, Conrad,
yeah,
actually.
There you go. You can never have too many.
I like to get a clean pair of socks on the rider. That's always quite nice.
Oh. Okay, I think I bring enough of those, and I'm always like, going to Target or H&M, as it were, if you're in the UK.
Yeah, depending on where you are. I'm trying to think of what maybe... No, I don't know what the Australian equivalent is, actually. Target. We have Target.
You have Target, right.
Yeah, we do. When was the last time you were here?
Right before the lockdown, basically. Well, the band... When was the band? I don't remember, actually. Too far.
Eric?
But then I don't, I don't remember, last year very well. It was all a blur.
Yeah, I don't remember most years very well, actually.
Yeah, I just remember enjoying myself. So that's all that counts.
That's very good. I think you played 2 shows at the Corner Hotel in Melbourne.
Okay.
One
was
after
it the time
other.
when a guitar hit somebody in the head? Do you remember that happening?
I don't remember that, no.
Okay. That happened at the Corner Hotel, which, brought an ambulance to the show.
Whoa. Did you do it?
Yeah, it was me at the end of the set. Well, it wasn't, I've done that plenty of times. But, if you do that in most places, you'll get a bunch of audience members trying to catch the guitar, But in Australia, for whatever reason, or in Melbourne, the guys just kind of like stared as the guitar came hurtling towards them. Maybe it was dark or something. Maybe they didn't know what was going on.
Whoa.
But yeah, like if I'd done that in the UK, like the guitar would be gone. You wouldn't see that again. But these fellas, they got hit in the head and they were polite enough to return the instrument. So.
Wow. It's funny because the major sport is footy and that is flying balls all of the time. You would have thought that they would know how to catch.
Yeah.
But I guess there's a real music versus sports sort of clash, and maybe they really didn't want to have to catch something because it went against their beliefs.
Yeah. Or even if you're a rugby player, or not rugby. Yeah, I guess rugby. Yeah,
It's the same. Footy, and Australian rules, rugby.
And then there's cricket. You don't want to be hit with one of those balls.
You definitely do not. Do you know anything about cricket? Well, yeah, because you grew up in England.
Yeah.
Or Ireland,
I know enough about cricket to know that I have no interest in it.
Yeah, it's actually one of the beautiful things in life, Conrad. I'm telling you, 5 days it goes for. You basically pretend that you're doing something for 5 days, and it's all lies, but you get a break from reality, and you sit with your friends, and you don't really know what's going on, but it takes a long time. It's really
wow. I'd probably be more inclined to watch a chess match, but who knows?
Yeah, sure. How good is human versus robot now in chess? Can the human win, or are we still losing?
I don't know. I mean, I don't follow sports at all, to be honest. They just had the Super Bowl over here, and one of the bands that played, one of the teams that played, I'd never even heard of before, like the Bengals. Who are they? You know, like I didn't. That doesn't even sound like a football team. Apparently, it is. I don't know where they're from.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question. But you saw Dr. Dre.
I didn't watch it. No, I didn't watch it. No, I didn't watch it.
No interest?
I think there was other more interesting things going on that night. I don't know. What was that, last Sunday? Yeah, I think I was just out and about, you know. It's been pretty fun in Austin lately, so I don't feel any need to like be, you know, too glued to the watching television.
No, I think it's more as like a cultural reference that people watch the Super Bowl performance outside of the game just to sort of see what's going on and what's popular at the time and who's the big star of the moment, who's getting their chance to do it.
Well, I'm very happy that it brings people together. I'm happy for those people.
It's weird seeing Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and Eminem and all these badasses not saying the F word in their songs, though.
That is weird.
Yeah, like they've obviously been told beforehand that they can't do it, but I thought that they just wouldn't care. Because once they press play on the live performance, no one can, what is it? Is it a huge fine? What is the reason for them to be scared?
Apparently you watched it.
Yeah, I watched it, yeah. I was on a date with a girl and she said, "Have you seen the Super Bowl performance?" I was like, "No, let's check it on."
All right. Right on. I think I might have actually been watching Inventing Anna at the time.
What's Inventing Anna?
It's the series about Anna Delvey or Anna Sorenkin, depending on who you believe she is. It's the fake German heiress.
That sounds familiar.
About you know,
she went to New York and started conning everyone.
She was trying to establish an art club, which meant, you know, telling a few white lies in order to get people to believe her.
Yeah. Someone was telling me about it, and we were like, because she ended up getting sued or put in jail for fraud. Is that how it sort of ends?
Oh, she went to prison for like a year and a half, which is got out on good behavior, pretty good, and then she now she's back in like a holding cell because she overstayed a visa. And so currently she's still, you know, incarcerated, but I mean, you know, she'll get out and she'll return to her projects, I'm sure. More famous than ever.
It's funny thinking about what's the sort of line between fraud and just white lies and telling, because I'm like, fuck.
I'm pretty sure it's a pretty gray, fuzzy line. And, she made a good point when she was interviewed by 60 Minutes. And that's like, there's so many big businesses out there that are a house of cards. And they're built upon the strength of people's belief in them and their, validity. And it was just like she just didn't get to the point where she was able to implement her dream. But on paper, it was pretty, according to the people that saw it, it was pretty legit.
Yeah, I guess you're protected by the company, aren't you, if you get to that sort of level that you're talking about. But if you're still an individual, I guess they can come for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's an interesting story. I mean, she's not without wrongdoing. Obviously, she definitely lied and misrepresented herself. But do the ends justify the means? I think it was her lawyer that said, if she'd made it and if she'd gotten the club made, then we'd all be hanging out in this club right now talking about, hey, how great is this margarita and how awesome is Anna Delvey?
Yeah. You sort of walk the line between criminal and iconoclast sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's funny, just even with all of COVID rules and masks and things like that, and just seeing who are the real followers of laws and rules and who actually don't want to obey them, who think for themselves, who agree with what, and where the line is drawn with all of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I definitely hate, I'm definitely not fond of wearing a mask, but no. I don't have a problem with, obeying the law either. It's not that big a deal to me. I just
it hasn't been that big a deal to me either. I just don't like to wear a mask very often either, especially not if I'm outside. That's all.
Yeah. So only when I'm shopping for electronics.
That's your go-to.
Yeah.
What have you been buying?
Well, we just finished the record, but when we were working on the record, I was definitely getting, a decent synth collection. Oh, you can even see it. It's right. Let me see. I can turn my camera.
Oh, here we go. Nice.
I call that the wall of synth. And so the 2600 up there is probably the last one that I got. Oh, actually, no, the Medusa over there, which is pretty trippy.
Very cool, Conrad.
And yeah, but the one thing I realized that I don't have that I feel I need is just a straight up analog drum machine. So I'm thinking once I can save up enough money it's not that expensive, but I want to get the Drum Brute, Arturia Drum Brute.
Okay.
Just to have like a basic, like analog warm sounding drum machine.
Do you use the sort of downloaded plug-in ones on Logic and things like that? Or?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And actually, a lot of the ones that I enjoy using are on the iPad, the iOS apps. They're really, they're really good.
And then do you just sort of plug your iPad in so you're still using it analog, kind of, like by programming it and pressing it that way?
It depends. I mean, I can put the iPad into an interface, or I could get MIDI out of the iPad, USB. There's many different ways to do it. But if I'm just doing it fast and dirty, then just taking the audio out of the iPad is good enough for me.
Yeah. There's something about the commitment of not using MIDI, I find, all the time. Plugging a synth in and just recording what you get and having that as the sound. When you can fuck around too much, it just becomes impossible.
Oh, yeah. Today I actually recorded and posted on my Patreon like a 30-minute improvisation that I did. Now, I didn't use MIDI for that at all. In fact, I didn't have... That was fun to just kind of like turn as many synths on and then just go, just start playing and see what happens. And some cool things happen. But that was actually when I realized that, it'd be cool to have had an analog drum machine. Because I do have like a sample-based drum machine. But when you have all these analog warm-sounding synths happening and then you use this like sample-based thing coming in, it sounds like shit, It just it sounds crappy. It just doesn't cut through the mix. So, yeah, just getting something that is as analog as all this stuff will be a nice addition.
Well, if you've got a beautiful shirt and lovely trousers, but then your belt is cheap, it just ruins the whole outfit, doesn't it? You've got once you start getting all of the nice things, you can't just have the one thing that's kind of stinking it up. So yeah, I guess you've got to make that. You got to spend the money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like having a Beamer, but you don't have cool, rims.
Exactly. I was reading the Pitchfork review of Source Tags and Codes. 10 out of 10, Conrad. It was quite some. It would be 20 years ago, right?
I think the guy that wrote it was like in his teens, so could have been anyone.
He was very excited.
That's awesome. I'd love to catch up with him 20 years later. But I mean, I wish that he hadn't have given us 10 out of 10. I would have been happy with a 9, and the not having that always hanging like a.
Has it felt like that with that record a little bit?
I mean, oh yeah, for sure with that one, but we are always so absorbed with what we're doing now, and I am really happy with the new record. Though I'm sure a lot of people say that, but when they're talking about their new records, but the one that we just finished, which is going to come out in May, I mean, we really pushed a lot of experimentation on this album into, realms that we've never explored before. So
very cool. Who did you get someone producing it with you?
I beg your pardon?
Have you got someone who produced it with you, or it's you guys doing it?
Yeah, the last album was also done with Charles Godfrey. And he did some engineering on the album before that, but this album was co-produced with him. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Has he done other things that I may know?
He's done a lot, but off the top of my head, I mean, he worked on that Swans record. Right now, he's working with a local band called Nane, and yeah, so he's definitely fully booked.
Yeah, very good.
Oh yeah.
How long did you spend working on it?
This one, about 3 months.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's kind of exciting. I don't know if I should be talking about it yet, but maybe I could use this as an opportunity to kind of hint at the fact that we're definitely exploring a new, kind of like it's hard to describe this.
Take your time.
Well, I'll just wait. I'm not eloquent enough to describe what I'm trying to say.
Who's in the band at the moment?
There's 6 of us actually. So me and Jason,
Yeah.
Alec Padron is on bass. AJ is our keyboard player. He plays the like a B3 organ, and he's got a bunch of synths. So it's definitely great having another keyboard player on in the band. We've got another friend, Ben is on the drums, and we've known him since he was 12 years old. He's been in a band since he's been touring in bands since he was a kid. So
Right.
it's now he's like 22. So growing up.
Oh wow, he's probably young.
Mm-hmm. And then our friend John Dowie is in another band called Think No Think, and he's been playing guitar with us, which is another thing that's really cool because he sings as well, which is great because him and AJ and I want to start doing more kind of harmony stuff because there is a lot of harmonies on the new album. But he's also a really great lead guitar player. So it's fun to have these kind of like dueling leads, and that's something we've never really done before either. So
Yeah, sure. So what? Jason playing guitar and you on guitar and piano.
I mean, Jason's back and forth on drums. I do, yeah, mostly guitar. I mean, did I do any piano live? No, I didn't do any live. But I do like to have a go at the drums every once in a while if I can talk everyone into it.
That's happened less and less as the records have gone on. Is that right?
I mean, in a way, I think in the background it's happened more and more, where I'm probably playing drums a lot more than I did in the last. But that's just because I've got a pretty decent like Roland electronic kit, so I'm able to keep up my chops. Yeah. So I really do miss playing drums, and so we had some pretty cool moments on this album that we just kind of gave into like percussion. There was a song where it was like, I think 5 of us were tracking drums simultaneously. It was five drums going on.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I like it.
It was pretty fun, and I was the only one that wasn't playing drums. Actually, everyone else got to. I had to keep down the rhythm with the guitar because I was kind of orchestrating the changes.
So sort of no click tracks really.
No, it depends. I mean, it depends on the song. In fact, I think that one was to a click, even though it was like highly improvisational. It was important to have a click. But then there are songs that just you can't have a click because there's accelerandos and decelerando and so.
You guys have always been like that.
Yeah.
But then I was sort of reading after, I don't know where the quote came from or what it was, just, searching around, reading about you guys after Worlds Apart and So Divided, kind of got sick of doing things more clinical studio. Is that true?
That we got sick of what?
It sort of made it sound like those records were made more to click tracks and lots of overdubs and not done as live, and that once that sort of major deal disappeared or you guys left it or whatever, that you sort of went back to the old way of doing things.
Yeah, definitely tracking. Yeah, this album was tracked very live, and the last few records have been as well. But the last record was weird because at the time, so our previous lineup that had Autry and Jamie in it, they weren't around for the most part on the last record. So Jason and I were kind of doing that one by ourselves. They showed up a couple times, but for the most part, it was like months of just me and Jason in the studio. So that one felt like a kind of very isolated type of thing. Whereas this one, we rented a barn in the middle of with a beautiful field in the back. It's friends of ours have a recording studio in it, and it was we were out on the field playing soccer every day and grilling and archery. Set up an archery target, and I bought a couple bows. So it was really active, and it felt so fun. I just love those albums that are fun to make, and this one was definitely a fun record to do.
Were you living there as well, or you just go there every day?
No, it's just down the road here in Austin, South Austin. And so we just would drive there every day, leave very late, but it was a good 12 hours. And then, we made a point, like Sundays are off, so had to have the one day of the week just so that we don't, burn ourselves out.
Mm-hmm.
Although you end up burning out anyway because it's exhausting. It really is exhausting. But I tell you, having the field there to be active, like to get out every so many minutes and run around and stuff, makes a huge difference. It really does. I was able to
What sports ball game of choice was it? Soccer?
We actually invented a game that started to develop pretty awesome rules. And I fantasized about this game turning like national and it being like played in arenas. It was called Frisball, and it involves a soccer ball and a frisbee. and there's no teams. It's every person for themselves. But you have to basically, like, you can kick the soccer ball to anybody in the circle, and then you throw the frisbee to anybody in the circle, and it just gets, you would have to see it. But it's such a hilarious game that just playing it and watching it being played, you're just basically laughing the entire time. You know, you're just in hysterics, because especially when somebody's getting the soccer ball kicked to them and they have to run and catch the frisbee as well, you know, at the side.
Yeah. Are you highly competitive? Did you have to win?
No, it wasn't that kind of like sport that we had. There was no. There was no point system.
How does one win frisball?
There was no point system.
That's so modern.
Yeah, it was just like you just play till you're tired. But it was a workout, I tell you, because if you're running after a soccer ball and a frisbee, it's intense. It gets pretty intense.
There's nothing like tricking yourself into exercise, I think. Enjoying yourself while exercising,
right,
as opposed to the sort of mundane thing of going for a run or going to the gym, where it's so sort of regimented.
Oh, I can't do gyms. I mean, no. I mean, I love running, you know, or cycling, you know, and I live close enough to my favorite feature of Austin, which is Town Lake. And it's just so beautiful and meditative to go around Town Lake that I would never opt to do a gym, you know.
Was it nice to be back in Austin after Cambodia? How long were you in Cambodia for?
5 years. Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah. At first, no. And I'm not saying that it wasn't nice to be back in Austin, but coming back from the freedom of the cultural freedom that I had there, it was difficult to be back in America. And that was a culture shock, you know, where everything here just feels, I don't know. It's different. It's hard to make that comparison, but yes, I was glad to be in Austin. If I was going to be anywhere in America, then this is where I'd want to, you know, I knew that I'd be coming back here. And then when lockdown happened, this was a great place to be. I'm so glad that I was here for that. You know, everyone was having. It sounded like, especially like where you're at, and our friends in the UK and Germany, it sounded pretty rough. You know, pretty hardcore.
It was pretty hardcore here in Australia.
Yeah. But here, no, not so much. I mean, I don't know if that's just because of Texans being inherently Texan, you know, and demanding their ability to do whatever the hell they want.
Freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Freedom. So the parks were always open and things were happening, you know, still. So, and it was for people from Austin, it was kind of nice. It was like going back in time to like back when, you know, Austin was still a small town. It just felt cool.
Yeah, sure.
You know? And it still kind of has that vibe now. You know, it hasn't completely like gone back to what it used to be yet, with touring bands every, you know.
Oh boy.
Yeah, every day type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a couple of South by Southwests over the years, and
yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. But like a good example, I mean, like, so this South by Southwest, we're planning it, and it's still very up in the air. So much so that we're actually able to, you know, kind of be like, oh, well, we should just put something on, you know, let's host our own thing, you know. Nice. So that's kind of what we're working on right now, and just because we can, you know, it's like and that feels very old school, you know. That feels like what it used to be like in the 90s, where you could just put something on because you can.
Yeah, it got so massive when like Paul McCartney and Coldplay were playing and the Doritos stage and all that shit. It just sort of like, I don't think this has the magic that it used to have anymore.
Yeah, it definitely pushed its limit. But, you know, I mean, I still enjoy that it's here, and it's easy to complain about it if you're a resident, you know, grumbling about it. But man, it's fucking awesome. I mean, bands from all over the world. And, even if I don't have a badge or a wristband, and usually I don't, I just love seeing all the free stuff, and you could just wander around town and be surprised by so much great stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I remember playing one at a bar, and there was just people outside all of the bar, packed out on the street, watching us like from behind the stage and sort of turning around and playing to them. And yeah, it was magic. It was so much fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was a long time ago. But yeah, a sound guy described it best when he was like, it is a clusterfuck. I was like, yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Just trying to load your gear into the venues through like trying to get a park to get to the stages and everything. It was intense, but fun.
Typically, I never made it to the weekend. By like Thursday, I'd already burned out from like all my friends being here and partying. That by Friday, Saturday, I just couldn't get out of bed. Like I just, I burned out fast.
I get it.
But hopefully,
do you still have much? Do you still have much party in you these days as you've gotten a bit older?
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe it's the whole music keeps us young type of thing, but I don't want to feel like I'm over it or something. And it's not, it's not about like alcohol or anything like that so much as just like seeing friends out and seeing live music with them and enjoying that. The other night that we went to 13th Floor, where Christian Bland from the Black Angels has a band, the Revelators, and they were playing at one of our friends' bars, and packed out, and it just feels good to still have people come together and listen to music. I don't ever want to outgrow that.
Yeah, of course. I remember even when you guys played here at the corner, and maybe this is something you always do, but it's like, hey, if anyone wants to hang out afterwards, if there's a party or anyone wants to go somewhere, make sure you come and say hello and let's hang out together.
Well, we would always
I like
stay
that mentality.
We had some good good after hour hangouts at the corner. Yeah.
I think it's a great way when you're playing all around the world as well. Like that's how you end up making friends, isn't it? If you just say afterwards, hey, anyone come say hello to us, let's take us to a bar, show us around the city, we can hang at your place or whatever. I always find I guess some people become detached from their audience, or they want to stay in the green room, or they don't want to fraternize, or they've sort of built some shield in front of their whatever their artistry is, and they don't want to do that. But I like that sort of affable musician.
Generally, I would have to be pretty like sick, like with a cold or a flu or something, in order to not want to explore the city that we tour in. Unless it's like a horribly boring city. But even then, I mean, I'll try to like get out there and see something, whatever it is. We were just in Phoenix last in December. And, not a typically interesting town. We're just like in the middle of a street with just furniture stores. But I walked far enough down the street and just came upon this amazing toy store. Incredible. And, just like with all these collectibles, like so amazing that I just wish that Austin had a toy store this cool. We have a couple decent toy stores, but this is like, if you're into like that type of collecting type, like figurines and stuff.
Yeah. And you've got a son now, is that correct?
Occasionally.
Occasionally?
Yeah. It's kind of a weird situation. His mom and I do not get along. We don't. So
were you together for a while?
No, we weren't. Well, no, not before him. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you have to sort of liaise and negotiate with someone that you probably wouldn't have chosen to have a child with. Is that kind of the situation?
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. I've always thought about that. That's something that I hope doesn't happen to me in my life. But maybe it's good teaching, good to learn something from that.
Yeah, I mean, life goes on, and I mean, he's going to be a great kid, and as far as I know, she's a great mother. So, hopefully things work out. But
the toy store gifts the toy store was more exciting for you than potential gifts for your son?
Well, it's complicated.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I think it always is, isn't it? I don't think it's ever not complicated with children, no matter what the sort of relationship dynamic is.
Maybe. I mean, I could imagine how it wouldn't have to be, but yeah. I guess when it comes down to it, that I'm definitely better at making albums. You know, I've already
Well,
yeah.
you've got 11 records and one child, so that's a given.
I've come to terms with that. So
How many more do you have like does it ever end for you? Do you ever see an end point, or will this sort of be you forever? There's always a new record. There's always something you want to do.
right. Well, right now I'm working or going to start work on my second solo record, but so early in the process that I don't even know what shape it's going to take. I've kind of batted around the idea of it being purely instrumental, but then, you know, I'll probably like sit down and write a song, and then words will come to my head, and there'll be a melody, and suddenly I've got a song. So, which is kind of, I think, what happened with my first solo album as well. So I don't try to steer the creative process too much, you know, take the fun out of it. I just let it be what it is. But I do know that I've always wanted to do more with like soundtrack work, film type stuff. So, you know, to do instrumental stuff that has that cinematic quality, I think, is just something I enjoy, you know, creating.
You did a soundtrack with Trailer Dead? Did I see that?
No, we never have. No one's ever asked us.
I thought it said on the internet that you had, but maybe they're lying to me.
I mean, I think we made some incidental music for a documentary about roller derby.
That's what it was, yes.
But, you know, that's a far cry from, you know, doing the next Avengers movie.
I think you would be wonderful at doing film soundtracks, Conrad.
I would love to, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely a huge film, you know, lover. So
because you play the piano very well. Is that fair to say?
I would say that I grew up more classically trained, but it's definitely not something I practiced all the time, you know. I could have kept up my chops a bit better, but piano is still the instrument that just, it's much easier for me to be fluid on and write on, and like we were saying about music theory, kind of see the chords and know what I'm doing in it. But sometimes that's not the best compositional thing, you know, which is why when we started the band and we were doing a lot of alternate tunings with guitars, part of that had to do with, you know, approaching an instrument in a way that you have never, you know, in a way that your mind has to just kind of invent new pathways, I guess, new neural pathways.
I've never done the alternate tunings. They scare me. I'm so scared that I'll come up with something and I won't know how to remember it because I don't know what the theory of anything is. So I'm like, it's more about like where your fingers are placed or the frets and stuff. So I've never.
Well, I mean, there's an easy solution to that now, and that's usually
just
how
record it on your iPhone.
Yeah, just make a video, and that's often what I do. Even if it's on, you know, not just for alternate tunings, but for anything. Even if I got an idea on the piano, just to record a video of it, especially for guitar too, because there's a lot of times I'll come up with an idea, and yes, the fingering is the first thing you forget. You know, how did I play that? So to have a video of it makes a huge difference.
You can usually trust yourself though and remember what you would do. It's like, okay, I'm me. What would I have done to have made that? Because your finger's never going to stretch further than you could actually reach, right? Like, you know yourself well enough to know the moves that you'll try.
It's not so much that. I would say it's more about like different chord voicings, of which there can be many on the up and down the neck.
Yeah, sure.
And that's usually what I'm probably experimenting with more, is like different chord inversions. So, and that's something it helps to see which inversion you're playing in order to get like a certain resonance out of the strings.
And the violin is you as well?
And again, well, so I did not learn that as a child. I learned that as an adult, and that is a very difficult instrument.
Yeah,
I got
I
to the
think
point
probably
where, like,
the hardest.
if I need to record a violin part, I could probably, or even cello. I think cello might be better, easier. I can pull it off. But if I'm going to orchestrate or write a violin part, I'm going to get somebody to play it. So this last album, we got our friends in the Tosca string quartet, and I arranged strings for them, and that was really fun. It's just magical when you spend time actually writing a string arrangement and then hearing it being performed. You know, it's amazing. It's just...
So you would write it on piano?
Usually I would score it in Logic.
Right.
Yeah, so I would get each instrument, because that also has the luxury of telling you the range of the instrument.
Yes,
you know, so yeah, so you're not going to put like a low F for a violin when it stops at G. So that makes it a lot easier. And then you can play like at the for the track we did on the tracks that we used on the record, I had like rough demo versions. And that way I could have this kind of like cheesy MIDI sounding, string quartet playing along, and I could already kind of imagine how it's going to sound. And then just gave them, printed out the PDF, gave it to them, and off they went.
That's very correct and thorough. I like that. I've always just kind of like given someone the line at a time and be like, just play this one, and then now we'll record the one underneath, and just like tell them the notes or sing it to them or play them like some dodgy audio that I've recorded, but never printed anything out.
Yeah, you don't want to do that with a quartet.
No,
they would hate you.
Yeah.
We could be more like that with the horn players. So we had horns on the record as well, and they were a little bit, because I think the horns are more, they're kind of jazzier or whatever.
Yeah, right.
They can be a little bit more accommodating.
Yeah.
And forgiving too, because we made mistakes charting the horns, because the horns are weird. They have to be in like B flat or E flat, and you don't know quite. That was a bit of a trick. So the horn player had to kind of show me how to transpose what I'd written.
That stuff drives you mad. I'm like, can't we just all be in concert? Can't I just tell you what the correct note is and you just play that?
And you wonder why they were in the B flat, E flat in the first place. And then we did a choir. So the choir has an alto clef. And again, I had to do weird transposition for the alto to figure out where that was, but it all worked out. They were a little bit more rigid, because with singers, with a choir, these people are like classically trained singers. They definitely wanted to know, exactly what note they were hitting.
Yeah. Who was the choir? Who do you get for that?
We had one of our friends that he basically he worked with a choir that has got a lot of members. I think it was like over 100 people. But for this project, he brought like 8 of them in. One day I would love to, get the full choir experience. But for this, it was just a 8-piece, and so he helped direct them. And that again, one of those things where when you arrange something for that and for voices, and to hear it being done is just awesome. Such a great feeling.
Did they have to say any naughty words?
No, I don't think. No,
they didn't have to say, "Look at these cunts on MTV" or anything like that.
Nah, they didn't get to say. They did get to. They did get to whisper the band name, like in a really creepy kind of horror movie kind of way.
That's cool.
So that opens up the album. Yeah.
You guys love doing that at the start of your albums.
Yeah. I mean, wait, would I spoil anything if I told you? But for this one, we had a bunch of different people, foreign language speakers, translate our name into their language.
Very
So
good.
you'll hear
the right amount of pretension for Trail of Death.
Well, it was fun just getting, asking our friends, like our
that's awesome.
Alec, our bass player. He just got married. His wife's Polish, so she was able to give us a Polish one. And then Jason's wife is Korean, so she was able to give us a Korean one. And yeah,
that's very cool. Fuck, those lyrics on Worlds Apart, when I first heard that, just completely freaked me out. I loved it, but it was just so bold.
Which one is that?
Random Lost Souls have asked me what's the future of rock and roll, and
shit.
then the cunts on MTV and how they laughed as we shovel the ashes of the Twin Towers, and it's just like, this guy's really got a lot to say here.
Yeah, we still play that song. We played that on the last tour. That's a fun one. I mean, it feels to me like
song.
It's like a drinking song, It's like the type of song that you want.
Song.
Yeah, you want people in the audience to like put their arms together and dance,
I think just at the time, what was it, like 2005 though, sort of the Twin Towers hadn't been that, that was still a touchy subject.
Sure.
And just to be fucking laying into everything, it was just, I don't know. I feel like that was one of the first songs I heard of you guys, because Worlds Apart was the first record I got. So Smile Again for me, obviously, that was sort of like grabbed me, and then it's sort of into this like kind of Irish folk rock song or something, but with just the most intense lyrics. It was magical. If
you like Worlds Apart, then you'll love the new record. That's all I can say.
Great.
It's definitely comes from that kind of like us exploring all these different textures. Whereas Source Tags, I would say, is far more of a unified listen. It's kind of a homogenous sounding production all the way through. Worlds Apart was more like, we're going to try this with this song and this with this song, and
well then, and So Divided even more so. I think like every single song on that is its own world of composition.
Yeah, that was the extreme like, I would say that one thing I like about So Divided is pretending that it's not even our band. I can just listen to it and it just sounds like other people.
Man, that record that's my favorite one. There's just, I just keep going back to it. Yeah, it's like, I love a lot of the other ones, of course, but just something about that one, I think it's that idea that you're talking about of every song being a completely different world and composition. The vocal styles change, the production and everything's slightly different. It's just...
Right on.
Yeah. But I don't think people were as nice about it. I read some of the reviews and they sort of...
I mean, it makes sense to me. People that wanted us to be the band that we'd kind of like, set ourselves up to be is with a very distinct one type of sound. We're probably annoyed with the fact that we didn't want to be pigeonholed, but it is like, it probably is for me one of the ones I'm most fond of as well. And for that reason of like being able to listen to it and feel like I'm listening to another band, it's but it's got some really dark moments, It's got some
and that Gold Heart Mountaintop, I feel like that's I've listened to the original, but I like your one better, Conrad.
Oh, thank you. Don't tell what's his name that. He's already mad. I think he already hates us for the fact that apparently. So I do all the artwork, so it's my fault. I'm the one that's responsible. But in the credits, I guess no one had pointed out to me that like I'd not credited the Guided by Voices, and then I looked at the credits and I was like, shit, I didn't even credit us as writing the record. So in the credits there is no who wrote anything. But he was mad. So he was mad. Bob Pollard. Yeah. So sorry, Bob.
But, that you made it better.
But I really love that. I mean, that B1000 record by them was such a huge inspiration. It's still, to me, is one of my favorite records too.
I haven't listened to it. I need to check it out.
Yeah, you got to check out that whole album. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Jason Reese your best friend or your worst enemy?
You can be both. I mean, you don't have. You're not mutually exclusive.
I think they actually are. They both go hand in hand quite perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, we're more like partners in crime, but I guess I don't know. That's when you've known somebody that long, and it's like it's kind of like family. So it's like brothers. Brothers don't feel like they have to hang out every day with one another, but they know that when they get together and get the game is on, that we know that we're gonna bring it.
Yeah. How long is you started the band in 94? Is that correct?
Yes. No, 95. 95. Yeah. May 12th, 1995 is...
Holy shit.
It's been around.
That's a long time.
But it doesn't, the last 20 years, 25 years or whatever went by very quickly. And so I'm about to turn 50. And I swear, like, I don't feel 50. Maybe I'll look 50. I don't know, but it doesn't matter to me. That's just like we're still playing music, and that's kind of what we do. It's just, I don't have worry about having to get those shoes with the big soles because I can't walk anymore.
Are you going to be like the Rolling Stones? Is it going to go forever?
I hope so, and not because like I think that. I was thinking about this the other day, and it's just the idea of mastery. It takes a lifetime. If there's something that you're really passionate about, and I feel this way with drawing as well as I do with playing instruments. There's not enough time in a human life to master everything, to the point where you're happy with it. So the real goal for us should be always to just improve and to learn things about our craft that we we don't know, and it's a pity that rock and roll is associated so much with and pop culture as well, so much with the cult of youth, to the point where a lot of people feel that they have to get their best work out in their like 20s or something, because after that they're over the hill or whatever. Because that's really just not, can be further from the truth. Some of my great favorite composers of all time did their best work right before they died.
Yeah, we do have that obsession completely, and I'm finding myself as I'm getting older, not really having. I don't really enjoy music made by people in their 20s anymore. Like, I enjoyed the music when I was 20 that I still nostalgically like now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just don't feel like the stories that 20-year-olds have to say or write about in their songs sort of resonates as much with me anymore. It's like not much there for me to sort of, get into. And I agree with you.
I know a lot of 20-year-olds that feel the same way,
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of 20-year-olds that are into the older music just because they don't feel, like there's something that there. But I'm always looking, So, in fact, the guy that did the Chronicle interview, he's young, and so he had a bunch of music recommendations for me to check out. I'm always like kind of on the hunt for something that's going to wow me or change the way I think about music.
It's definitely production. Fewer and further between, I think, as the years go by, though, isn't it, for someone to wow you?
It's hard to say,
but it's still always there. It's just I find it happens less
often. I think that it comes in waves. There are these fruitful times where a lot of stuff is happening and it'll happen all at once, and then there'll be a lull. If you're into the type of music that is being made on pop radio these days, then you would think that this is a golden age, wouldn't you? But, I mean, for the music that I'm kind of like always looking for, which is a little bit more to do with like, real instruments and less about like, production, or that type of production, electronic production. It's around, and I think that also it's a cyclical thing. So there'll be another round of this, like people wanting to go back and get a raw, make things sound raw again because they're just so inundated and fed up with, the overproduction that they hear.
Yeah, for sure. Has it sort of ever bothered you having something like Source Tags and Codes, like we sort of mentioned, being the one that gets credited the most as like the peak of the career that was such a long time ago, and you think, you guys always being focused on what is the new record that you're making, and probably you always feel you're making your best work every time. Is it frustrating in that way?
I mean, I'm glad that we made Source Tags and Codes. I really am. I'm quite proud of that album. And I also don't always think that the thing that we've just done is our best work. There have definitely been times when I didn't feel that way. But
Which ones?
But I do
me.
This time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What ones were no good?
I'd say that when we did Lost Songs, there was something I felt like I could have made that better, or even 9. I felt like there's something about that I could have wanted to improve on. But and I mean, even the last album, to be honest with you, yeah. But because maybe that had to do with just the fact that when you have an album that is difficult to make, and those albums were a little bit on the hard side. So the recent one just felt so fun that, I mean, maybe that helps. Maybe that contributes to that sense of feeling that you've done something good. Yeah,
that makes sense. It's always quite like to hear what the artists have to say about which ones of their records are actually not as good, or that they don't think were as good. You can't tell at the time, though, I think, can you? Because when you're in the middle of it, it's just sort of impossible to have much perspective, I think.
I mean, I like going back to what I was saying about when records are difficult, they tend to be the ones that I am more critical of. The record that we did after So Divided, Century of Self, that was a really hard record to make. And of all of our records, I think that's the one that I always think I would love to go back and remix the whole thing, maybe even rearrange it or just re-record some of those songs, Because
for me, after So Divided, it was building for me. It was like Source Tags and Codes, then Worlds Apart, then So Divided. I was like, this is going in a place that I was really, really excited about, I guess. And then listening to that one that you've just mentioned, it didn't feel like it kept going in the same direction or something. And then when I listened to Teo Deer the other day, I was like, that's back on form. But that one,
Well, Dow was a very fun record to make. And we were really unified. Everybody working on that project was really unified. Century Self was a really arduous record to make. There was a lot of tension, a lot of... there's 3 different producers on the album.
So your deal had finished with Interscope, is that right? When you got to doing that record?
I think we just opted out. They just said, "Well, yeah, you don't have to renew it," and we didn't. At the time, I think Jason and I had felt that we weren't doing on a major label anything that we couldn't have done independently, and also maybe we felt that the label didn't really understand what we were about or how to market us, and so we never felt that was worth pursuing. I'm still really appreciative of having been on Interscope. That was a wild ride. It was super fun, but I think that when you're on a major label band, there is or when you're on a major label, there is a sort of an expectation that you're kind of a commercial product, and where we just weren't ready for that. We might be more ready for that now, but at the time it was like, nah, that's not the kind of music we want to be. We're not trying to push our stuff to commercial radio, so it just didn't make any sense.
Did you felt that pressure from the label, or it was sort of self-imposed a little, you think?
Not necessarily from the people in charge of the label. They were always kind of like, do whatever you want. But it was kind of more like you felt that when it came to the marketing the record, and how that was going to be done. But I don't know. And the record industry was in a really weird time at that time, you know?
Yeah, mid-2000s, right?
Nobody knew what was going to happen. Maybe people still don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it's even more, random than ever. But at least now I feel like I know more about the idea of how to, get a record across. Probably more than I did a year ago. I've been doing some homework.
Oh, yeah. It took me so long to understand even what a master was. It's like, that was fucking funny about 5 or 6 years ago that I understood the difference between the songwriting and who owns the master and all that.
That kind of master. Oh, I thought you meant like the mastering.
No one knows what that means.
Yeah, it's a very strange but I have a cool plugin that does it. So.
Oh yeah, it's cheaper too.
Way cheaper.
Way cheaper.
But actually, the guy that mastered the new album, the one that's coming out, he worked with us at Interscope. So he was part of the Interscope team.
Okay, who is it?
His name's Conrad.
No idea. I just know the guy Bob Ludwig that everyone talks about, and that's about it, really.
Who?
Is it Bob Ludwig? Is that like the big mastering guy?
He, I don't know. I mean, we did Howie Weinberg.
Harvey Weinstein, yeah, I've heard of him.
Harvey Weinstein. I made that mistake once, calling Harvey Weinstein a mastering engineer. Oh, shit.
This is a question I like to ask people. Are they optimistic or pessimistic about the future of humanity?
Yeah, I'm definitely an optimist, big time. Yeah.
Interesting, because listening to Worlds Apart lyrics, I'd be like, this guy's a pessimist for sure. But that's a long time ago.
Sometimes when you write a lyric, you're role playing, and there's one of the new songs that I wrote the lyric to, and it sounds pretty, like it sounds like a really dark vision of what the nature of humanity is. But these are like just roles that we put on, sometimes. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that the future is going to be pretty cool.
You've got your compost bin. You're sort of making the changes. Keep cup for your lattes.
Yeah, there was a book I was reading. It was called The Rational Optimist, and the thing about pessimism is that it's always been around, and it's easy to see how bad things seem. And obviously, if you watch the news is based on bad news. I mean, they wouldn't be able to sell it if it was good news all the time. No one would buy it. So we have this kind of like, I guess, a confirmation bias when it comes to information that if we're pessimistic, then everything that we see and observe is only going to reinforce that sense of pessimism. But I think it's important to be optimistic about humanity. But you have to believe in humanity. Not everybody does. Not everybody even likes human beings. But I mean, I would say that if I have a philosophy, it would be that I am a humanist. Which if I had to, define that, I guess I would just say that for better or for worse, I hope that humanity has a future, a grander destiny to do, that's beyond just this, present, the present turmoil that we see around us. So.
Are you going to jump on the spaceship with Elon?
No. And I'm not about that either, because that to me seems a pessimistic thing to do. That's kind of
let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. At least when they make it like that. I mean, I would love to jump on a spaceship to cruise around and, take a video to prove that the Earth is actually round. But but I'm not doing it to like, because I'm unhappy with the way things are, here, Things are pretty cool if you think about it.
This is good. It's nice to see some optimism. I think I'm right on the line. I'm halfway in between. Yet to make up my mind.
Okay, yeah. Jury's still out. We'll give it time. Give it time. Proof is in the pudding.
Did you find having a kid makes you change the sort of how you want to leave the world behind?
I think that that's probably something in our chemical makeup that does change your mind, change your brain when and kind of gives you the sense of like, yeah, there's a continuation. But a lot of things make me feel that, there's constantly things that give me hope or, a brighter outlook than what we're being told to. I mean, even the fact that people care, I think that's great, that there is this huge movement of young kids out there that are protesting in the environment and things like that. I mean, that to me is quite special, and powerful.
You're not going to be removing your music off Spotify like Neil Young?
That's not my fight. But if I were to do anything, I would definitely like to organize artists and stuff to protest better streaming revenue. I think that that's a bit of a scam. But I understand, of course. Scam. Yeah, but I understand why that is the way it is too, and that was kind of explained to me from the because Spotify doesn't really make a whole lot of money from. It's complicated, but yeah, I think that would be something that would be worth artists all kind of getting together and maybe boycotting or demanding that. More.
Yeah, I guess because what was Tidal, wasn't it, with Jay-Z? They were sort of trying to get people to rally behind a new streaming platform, but it was when it was all the biggest artists in the world telling you to do it. It was hard to sort of feel that you related to them. You're like, you guys are already rich, so I don't really know if I want to get on board with you. It needs to start a little lower, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll see, because it is disheartening, I think, for some musicians to be putting out records and not feel like they're worth anything, because everybody just kind of like gets them for free. But it also forces us to rethink and reinvent what it means to make records, or what it means, what it is that we're creating. So in a way, I think it's kind of an exciting time to see this new just reassessment happening.
Your budgets would have obviously changed since leaving Interscope for making records.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it sort of self-funded now, or there's labels still paying for you guys to do it? A bit of both?
We do have two labels. So we've got the Canadian label, Dynalone, and we have our German label, Superball. But it does require us to be really frugal and know how to stretch that budget, especially when you're trying to make we were trying to make an ambitious record, so yeah, we had to ask for favors. We don't get a 100-piece choir, we get an 8-piece choir, and we record them twice,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that type of thing. But there's tricks, and I think, I mean, I know that this has been said by many, many different artists, but limitations helps art. It really does. When you have a limitation, it makes you more creative. So sometimes having some ridiculous, over-the-top budget isn't necessarily going to make you write a better record.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Being very prepared when you go into the studio, knowing exactly, having it all like mapped, draft copy before you go in there, instead of being Def Leppard spending 2 years with no songs before they start.
I'm sure it was a very fun 2 years.
Oh, it must have been so good. And to make the biggest record in the world as well.
Oh, man, that must have been a hoot.
Yeah. What song could you happily never hear ever again? And not by you, but by somebody else.
Ooh.
I can throw some examples at you.
Well, I'm just kind of blanking on what they are, but I know that they exist. They're songs, and they're probably because I don't want to think about them is why I'm blanking. I don't even want to you know.
They're the ones that come on at Target or at the bar, and you find yourself pointing at the speakers like, oh, fucking hell, and getting upset.
Yeah, like I was never really fond of what do you call it? Zombie. But
oh yeah,
maybe
good.
it'll one day kind of I'll come around to it. There was this, there was that one Jefferson Starship song, Jefferson Starship. Yeah. In fact, I think it was just a Starship song. We built a city on rock and roll, which, when that came out, I just thought it was a horrible, horrible song. And then we had this amazing experience in Mexico driving through the jungle, and that came on the radio, and we were all singing it. And from then on, that song had this totally different significance to me, and I fell in love with it, and now I love it. So maybe that'll happen with Zombie, where I'll be
with the Cranberries.
Yeah.
That's funny because We Built the City on Rock and Roll came on the radio yesterday, and I remember thinking, I was like, "Fuck, that is one of those songs that I could add to my list of songs I never needed to hear ever again." But you've just vindicated it.
Well, I'll tell you, man. Just drive around the Yucatan in a Jeep in the middle of the jungle at night and blast that song, and you'll hear it with fresh ears.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I can't copy your memory. It's not going to work. It's going to take something different.
You could,
I thought that Mighty Mighty Boss Tone song was one that I never needed to hear ever again. But then me and the guy in my band listened to it the other day and watched a live performance of it, and there was something so silly that we're like, actually, you know what? This is a jam.
Right on.
Yeah, so you it can change. I don't know if I'm ever going to like Eye of the Tiger ever again, though. I think it might be done for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a contextual thing, If it shows up in the right movie at the, well placed, it can change. Yeah, it just all depends,
I don't know if Living on a Prayer can ever change for me. As much as I don't mind Bon Jovi as a guy, he seems all right. That song fucking kills me.
On a steel horse he rides.
Yeah, oh God. It's like at the bar when all the drunks get really excited at the key change and all like point at each other and laugh and be like, oh, whoa, that's where I'm like, oh,
yeah,
not
you
again.
see, that's the wrong association. So you've already associated it with something negative in your mind, and I can understand that. So you have to like change that to, if you want to, if it's even necessary. I mean, I wasn't out to try to fall in love with We Built the City. It just happened. So now every time I hear it, it's like, and it's funny too, because we're in the Yucatan, and for some reason I associated it with like all these grand Mayan cities, like from ancient times, and thinking of like how funny
Building
it would
the
be.
city.
What?
Building the city.
Yeah, they're building a city, and they built it on rock and roll. They definitely built it on rocks. And they had to roll those rocks because they didn't have the wheel, so.
How about that, eh? Bit of gag time. Thanks, Conrad. That was a real treat. I've been wanting to chat to him since Worlds Apart came out all the way back in 2005. So it's been a long time coming for me. I'm excited to hear their new record, maybe even have a game of frisball if I get around to it. Hey, so if you want some Trail of Dead hot tips from me, check out So Divided. That's my favorite album from them. Worlds Apart is excellent. Obviously, Source Tags and Codes, Tao of the Dead. There are a bunch of records. I got a lot, but that's a good starting point, I think. Also, check out Conrad's Patreon page with all his artwork as well. I'll put a link to some stuff in the podcast description, or you can just follow him on Instagram. There's a bunch of his work there. All right, that's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening. Back soon with more. Got a bunch of guests and episodes in the works. I've just got to pin these people down. It's a little tricky sometimes, but I'm on it. All right, until then, take care. Talk soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.